These local birds that I was keeping, guys, they are not financially making any sense to me, to be honest. Because most of these businesses that we start them to actually get something out of it at the end of the day. You cannot start a business just for, let me say, a hobby or just to entertain you or anything else, but you want money at the end of it. I once kept local birds, and they reached a point where I decided that I should quit keeping these local birds. And I actually made a video of me quitting keeping local birds. And then a lot of people out there were like, I'm discouraging people from venturing into local birds. And yet, local birds is one of the breed which is very expensive in the market compared to any kind of chicken. I don't disagree. Local birds are really, really expensive, even from here, because I'm in a village, but the local birds in here are super expensive and are very hard to find. The real reason why I left keeping local birds to come for the layers, then this is the video. One, these birds require a big space of land for you to keep these birds in there. You guys remember how I started this poultry farm with the local birds, and then the birds used to go out and then roam, look for the feed sometimes, and then come in here. And then I was also supplementing them with commercial feeds. I wouldn't call them commercial feeds because I was mixing fish meal and then some sources of carbohydrates. Like I was saying, if the space you're having is not enough, then it is very hard for you to keep the local birds, because you cannot confine these local birds like the layers over there that we have put there. Like, layers can actually spend all of their lives in the house, like 100%, even the broilers. But with the local birds, it's quite hard. So that's the first reason. Number two, these local birds that I was keeping, guys, they are not financially making any sense to me, to be honest. Because most of these businesses that we start them to actually get something out of it at the end of the day. You cannot start a business just for, let me say, a hobby or just to entertain you or anything else, but you want money at the end of it. The local birds that I was keeping, they really, really grow very, very slow. Like, let's say that if a local bird is actually hatched today, it can spend 6 months for it to be able to be eaten. I have experience with it. 6 months for it to start to lay eggs, meaning that you have to spend money in 6 months just for you to start getting back your money. Putting money into something is not the problem, but the problem is that thing that you're actually putting money in it going to bring back the money that you have spent plus some extra money from it? So that was the question in me. Let me tell you guys, you would spend money on the feeds, you would spend money on the vaccines, and then other small things around. But when you try to calculate the amount of the feeds that you will use to keep these local birds up to the point where you can sell them, and then try to calculate the amount of the money, you'll find that the amount of the money that you have spent on the feeds alone is even higher than the price of the bird that you're going to sell. So apparently that is not making any sense, honestly. So I had to quit keeping local birds. I'm not saying that local birds is not the deal to go. No, there are other people that have actually broke through and have made a lot of money from the local birds. I don't disagree with them, and maybe they have their styles where they find their money, but I personally, I didn't see any sense in there. So I'm not saying that you should not venture into the local birds, because my story is different from somebody's story. Somebody out there may be like, you know what, I was keeping the local birds and I really got a lot of money out of it, because I was getting the feeds from this side and then giving them this, and then eventually they get a lot of money out of it. But to me, because this is my experience. I'm the one who experienced it personally. So I'm actually telling you what I experienced with the local birds. That's why I had to quit and then start a layer farm. So that's another thing. And then another thing is that, you know, these local birds, even from the word local, if things are now local, guys, they are local. Can you imagine that we tried our level best to actually elevate these birds from being local to a point where they can be modern, but things failed because let me tell you, local birds are now local birds. I agree. Somebody told me that local birds are local. You cannot keep local birds like the broilers. Never. So I come to agree with these people. So, you know, these local birds, they sleep on the trees. These birds, they scratch the ground and then find their feeds from there. They eat grass, they eat food remains, they eat, actually, they look for the things that they want to eat. But we were trying to actually give them things which we would have given to broilers. And then the worst thing is that these local birds, however much you give them, let's say the broiler feeds. Let us try to look at, let us try to see this. So the local birds, even if you give them these kind of feeds, these broiler feeds, which they are actually meant to make broiler birds grow very quickly, even if you give them to the local birds, the rate at which these birds convert the feeds into making their body is really, really low, really low. So you will end up spending lots of money and then end up getting nothing, absolutely nothing. So the rate at which these birds convert the feeds they eat into making their body or building their body the way the broilers do, these birds don't have it. They don't have it. So local birds have very many stories, guys, very many. And if you do want to start with the kind of local birds, I suggest you go to the improved birds. Improved birds are just like the local birds, but they're actually meant in a way that the rate at which they convert the feeds they eat into growing them is good. So if you do want to raise local birds, I would think that you go for the ones that are improved. Those ones are much better and then they can at least earn you some money. And guys, another reason why I decided to quit keeping local birds is that it is very hard for you to find good quality breed of the local birds. Yeah, it's very hard to find. Like for instance, when I was starting this poultry farm, I'm in an area whereby even the day-old broiler birds, the day-old layer birds are not there. For us to get broiler day-old chicks or the layer day-old chicks, we have to move around 8 to 10 hours just to get to a place where you can get these birds just in the country. So we don't have those breeder birds in here. So what I was trying to say is that the local birds, it's very hard for you to get a good breed of birds in here, like in my area. So what I did is that I was actually sourcing these local birds from homes. You know, you can go to a home here and then be like, can you sell me some birds? And then if they allow, they will give you like 2. And then from here, you will go somewhere. So what I didn't know is that all these birds are different breed of birds, much as they are local birds. So when I brought them into my farm, you would find that one is ill. It was difficult for you to know whether it is ill or not. So at some point, the birds were getting ill, they were getting diseases, and yet I was very strict in here, meaning that I got birds which were already ill. I got birds which were of poor quality. So, like I was saying, it's hard for you to get a clean breed of birds the way I actually managed, because I've moved in different homes, you know, and you don't know what each home is having in terms of diseases, you know. So I had to source them, and then when I brought them here, It wasn't, making any sense. First of all, the rate at which these birds lay was all different. You will find that a hen can lay up to 20 eggs and then start incubating, and then another hen can lay just 7, 8 eggs. So that was the breed of birds that I was talking about. So it was really, really hard for me to get the right breed. That's why at some point a disease actually broke out in here. Yeah, because I was just stocking birds, stocking. I can get 5 today and then bring them here. And then after 4 to 5 days, I may go and then get another 5, 6 birds. So by the time I reached 40 birds, going to 50, 60, the batch that I was bringing in here would have been ill because I was not knowing. So it would affect all the other birds that I was having. But maybe if there is a good source of the local birds, then it is good to go. But obviously, that is what it is, and it shouldn't prevent you from starting a poultry farm with the local birds. That was my experience.